What is going on, everyone out there? Welcome to our very first episode of Cats Chat. We are so excited to get this started off. Bear with us if we have any kind of technical difficulties, as Mark, my brother, this is his first time doing any kind of podcast or shows like that. Much better looking face than me, but at least I've got the technology going on here.
I've got a face for radio, man. I'm so used to doing play-by-play and stuff like
Mhm.
that. I'm not used to this kind of thing.
So I'm excited about that. But before we get started and kind of getting into some of what we're going to do, just kind of talk about what it is that we want to do with this show, at least on my end. And Mark, if you want to talk about yours as well. Cats Chat, we live here in the southeastern part of Kentucky, which most people that may watch this episode is probably going to be our hometown guys, anyways, and gals, of course. Kentucky basketball is the most juggernaut here in our area. We don't have any pro sports. We don't have anything as far as baseball, basketball in Kentucky. You're like us. We cheer for the Reds in baseball, who actually is having a good season this year. In football, growing up, we always liked Dallas Cowboys. Me and Mark as well. Other teams around here, the closest one I think is Nashville in Tennessee, of course. We don't like too much to talk about Tennessee. When it comes to the NBA, it's Miami for me, just because there's Kentucky boys there. Pat Riley, Bam, Tyler Hero for the time being, probably going to be traded for the Dame trade, but that's other stories there. But when it comes to the Bluegrass area, Appalachia region, out in the Western Kentucky, Cats are king when it comes to basketball. And we are not just a basketball school. We are a football school as well. We're a baseball school. Our volleyball team is doing well. Softball has also been ranked in the past years. We're just a college sports team. And so I wanted to have my own show where I can talk more about what my passion is, as far as I have some other shows, MNC Hoops, that I do on Sunday nights, where it's just everything NBA basketball. So I want to do something on there. And I'm so thankful that my brother is going to be also here with me on this road as we move forward. But Mark, how you doing? What are your goals on this? What's something you're passionate about and what do you want to do here, if you don't mind?
I've always enjoyed sports. I've always loved it. I've always had a passion just for young people. That's why I went into education. That's really what got me into doing sports broadcasting, doing play-by-play for the games. And there's something about it, enjoying it, going on that journey with the players as they develop. And they go through the season. You're with them for their ups. You're with them for their downs. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of that way when you root for a team like Kentucky. We've had our ups and we've definitely had our downs. I mean, everyone remembers the loss to Robert Morris in the NIT many years ago. So, I mean, and it kind of goes with all the teams I've ever followed. Cincinnati Reds, there's been a lot of downs, but, they're playing very well this year and they've got a lot of young talent. And I've always been a UK fan. I really got into it. Dad got us into it when we were young.
Mm-hmm.
But me, when I really got invested in it, I was playing basketball in the 90s, and that's really when I got into UK basketball, was watching those 90s teams. And it's just I've just got a passion for it. I just love sports. And when you first said, "Hey, let's do the show," I was like, man, I'm used to play by play. I'm used to just painting the picture of what's going on a field or on a basketball court or even at a baseball game. But if we're just going to talk sports, I can do that.
Absolutely. And to me, guys, if you know us, at least, who's probably going to be watching this, we have kids. There's probably a chance that we're going to be interrupted by a child anyways. My son always wants to come in and tell me good night. We're doing the show a little bit earlier than what I do my other one, so they're going to be awake. I apologize for the non-professionalness, but that's kind of who we are as Lawsons. So we're going to run with this and enjoy ourselves. But as you guys can see, scrolling down the bottom, we got tickers going there. Follow us on Twitter, Cats Chat Pod. On Instagram, it's cats.chat_. Facebook is facebook.com/Cats Chat Pod. So all that is out there. We're on to YouTube as well. My wife said we might as well do like a TikTok where we maybe give top fives and stuff of Kentucky players and do that. So who knows what we're going to do on this. But all I know is by doing this show, we will get media passes at some point to go to Kentucky games for free and act like we know what we're doing.
Wishful thinking.
Absolutely. Of course. That's the only way to be. So, Mark, let's go ahead and get into our very first topic.
Let's do it.
What era is your favorite in Kentucky basketball history? Now, of course, in that, we're going – the way I'm saying era, I'm going by coaches in a way. The Calipara era, the Gillespie era, the Tubby era, and the Patino. And if you want to go all the way back to Rupp as well, you more than welcome, and Coach Hall as well. So
I mean, it's hard to pick that era as my favorite because I wasn't alive.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So I mean, yeah, Adolph Rupp, amazing teams. You know, you had some amazing teams back in that time. You know, you have one of Harlan County's own that played there,
Wall Jones.
yeah, and won some national championships. But I think I said it a minute ago. My favorite era would have to be the '90s. I was just really invested back when Patino and then it switched over to Tubby Smith. I mean, and that's not taking anything away from Calipari's era. I mean, I know a lot of people, they don't like Calipari. I get it that, everybody was fussing about the one and dones, and then we start trying to do some things differently, bring in some transfers and maybe get some guys that stay longer. And we're seeing that that's not as electric as some people expect it to be, because sometimes guys are 2, 3, 4-year projects. I mean, it's not always going to be a win now. Now, when you had the one and dones, you had a shot every year. You never knew what was going to happen. So I think my favorite era, though, would have to be that '90s era, just with Patino, and then it transferred over to Tubby Smith. You know, he still had Patino's guys. You had your Jeff Shepard, your Antoine Walker, your Tony Delk, all those guys.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just that was John Pelfrey. I remember John Pelfrey, and it's just Darren Feldhouse, just some of the names that I can, it was so much fun, and there were 2 years there where Kentucky was able to pull off national championships. And it was kind of neat because Jeff Shepard was actually able to redshirt after his junior season and then win another national championship his senior year. So I think for me, that was probably my favorite era. Now, that's not to say I'm not going to have something even better come down the line, because I've loved some of these players that Cal has produced. What I got to watch of this team at the Global Jam, I enjoyed it. I'm not going to lie. They shared the ball. They were unselfish. Their shot selections were, for the most part, good. They spread the ball around. They were pretty consistent in shooting the ball. And I think this year could be a fun year.
Oh, I think so too. I'm trying my best to not get into too much of the hype of what went on with the Global, just because, and this is kind of getting just sidetracked here. This is going to be like water cooler talk. Let's just be honest. What was it, 2 or 3 years ago when we went to Bahamas and we were alley-ooping everyone, dunking on them, beating them by 40 points, 50 points. And then we come home and we didn't produce very well when we got to the SEC games and everything like that. But that's why I'm pumping the brakes. Now, I do think what's good about this team, and we'll get into it probably a little bit more, is they seem to play together already. Like, there seem to be friends. Like, we've already seen on social medias, Reed Shepard catching a fish. I think it was Wagner had a IG live where he caught a fish, I believe it was, and some other players. So I say that, one, because, we're country guys, but two, it's the camaraderie that, you haven't seen in the past few years with some Kentucky players. But coming back to the favorite era for me, it is also the 90s, but it's probably the later 90s. Some of the players you name, I do remember, which, you are a little bit older than I am. I'm getting some gray in my beard compared to yours.
I've got a lot of gray now.
But Tony Delk is my all-time favorite player ever to play at Kentucky. 00 is the reason why I wore it in high school and college. Going from there, this Derek Anderson is a player that I always love that you didn't mention. Ron Harper, even Scott Padgett, which is kind of the later of the 90s. So I think it's kind of funny how when you grow up playing basketball is kind of the team and the era that you fall in love with. Of course, the Noels, the Cousins, the Booker, the Tyler Eulis, all those, obviously we fell in love with watching them play. But back in the 90s, it just seemed what's different, at least in this era compared to that era, is you got at least 2 or 3 more years with them. And I'm saying more, not only 2 or 3 years. Like, some of those guys were seniors. Some of them were more juniors that were going on pros. But you at least got to know who was wearing the number before the season started, because they were there for 3 years usually. Keith Bogans is another one pops in my head, who actually came out to the Harlem Mall that actually I got his autograph, number 10.
I remember that.
So I'm trying to think, who was the big guy that Tubby had? Morris, I think it was.
Yeah, there was a Morris. There was also, oh man, did you say McGlure? That was with
I didn't say Jamal McGlure, but that was with the Patino. But yeah, I was thinking Morris. Like he was I want to say for some reason a
Randolph
fifth
Morris, yeah.
Randolph Morris. I always wanted to say Randolph, but I didn't want to say I'm dumb. So you got to learn more about these guys, and I think back then with the '90s, it just seemed more. And one thing that I liked about Patino is he was more defensive minded pressure, and everyone played as a team back then on that. Calipari, he'll press some, but it's more or less just to slow the ball down, slow the tempo. Like, hey, we're just going to make you kind of grind the ball a little bit here, but we're going to get back in here. We're going to play man to man because we don't believe in a zone. So there's different types of press that has went on. When it comes to Patino, it's okay, wherever you throw the ball at, that's where we're going to trap immediately and try to jump the reversal and leave the middle open because the other guy could cheat that. And it's a little more aggressive and trying to steal the inbounds and double team right away. And it's just that aggressiveness, the intensity that you're like, okay, let's go. Got you on the edge of the couch. We're waiting for a turnover right here. But one time, one of my biggest memories, I'm going to ask you this since we're kind of talking about favorite eras, and we're going to kind of probably have some of these memories together. That's going to make it even more fun to talk about. I remember when I want to say seventh grade, watching the LSU game, and Dad, who I could refer because you know who Dad is, was ready to turn the TV off. And I want to say it was halftime. We were down by 30. And I was like, Dad, you've always told me it ain't over until it's over. So, he's like, well, you're right. So we kept on watching the game. And that's Tony Delk hit like
The
three after three.
Yeah.
And came back and won that game down at LSU. And I was like, man, that was probably the most inspiring, I'm going to say, like intensified game that I'd watched as a child. I'm like, that is awesome. So that's what's one of your favorite memories growing up as a kid watching Kentucky?
The LSU game, I do remember that one. I remember the shot, man. The Christian Laettner shot. I remember watching that in the living room.
Favorite.
Yeah, that was my least favorite, but it's one of the most memorable I've ever had because
Absolutely.
I remember the overwhelming, just sinking feeling after he made that shot. I think, man, I don't know. I think the LSU game probably for me is probably one of my favorites because it was just such a big comeback. I didn't even mention my favorite player of all time is probably Jamal Mashburn. That's who I remember watching a lot, and I loved watching him play. He kind of like Chuck Hayes, not the biggest body, but he would get in there and scrap. He didn't care. He would go for the ball. He would do whatever he could to put points on the board or to keep you from putting points on the board.
Right.
So, Kristen, talking about my light there, that I had to come off you. Like I said, I've got a face for radio. I'm not used to this type of thing. But we do want to hear from all you people.
Absolutely. Get in the comments with us, guys.
When we're asking questions to one another, we want to hear what you guys think, like just what's your favorite era, like some memories you have from UK basketball. Just it's just, I don't know. It's something I think that anybody from Kentucky can sit around and talk about.
Absolutely. And like, that's one thing that I do like. And we're getting probably way out there on some stories here, I guess. But like, it don't matter how old you are. Like you could talk about Kentucky sports in some form of fashion. That's what makes it fun. Like at work where I'm talking about cars, which I don't even know anything about, but yet somehow I'm the boss. People come in and we can talk cats a little bit. It's cat chat time, like, okay, man, did you watch Kentucky last night? Man, did you see this go on? And it kind of brings everyone together in a way. It's almost poetic for our area of, at least in Appalachian, where we don't have much to be, proud of or thankful for. We could talk this.
No, I wouldn't say that. I've got a lot to be proud of. I like our heritage.
Well, I mean, obviously our heritage, we're very prideful on that, but I'm just saying as far as like, the downplay of how everybody looks at us, it's population wise, people moving off, coals died down, but, we had that conflict, but then we can look past that when we talk about sports and stuff. That's why I love sports. Like, and to me, when I'm playing basketball, everything in the world is completely blank. It's just this game for like 10 minutes. That's why I've always loved it. But let's see here.
If I'm not mistaken, I do want to talk. I do remember one memory. And I could be totally out in left field, but it seems like when we were in the championship game in '98, I was on a youth group trip. If I'm not mistaken. And I don't remember where we were exactly, but we went to like a Sears where all the TVs were on the walls. It was like a Sears or a Kmart, you know what I mean, where they have the TVs on display in the back. And we were watching the game back there, like just cheering and going on. It was because I remember we beat Utah in that game. I don't remember. We may have been in Gatlinburg or Pigeon Forge and went to a store there. I don't even remember, but I do remember having to watch the championship game on the fly.
Okay, awesome. That sounds good. Another memory that just pops in my head is Tayshaun Prince against North Carolina. Hit those, like 5 threes in a row. I mean, that was just miraculous.
Yeah, and they kept getting deeper. They were
the last one was from like the logo before shooting from the logo was a thing now.
And you got to think of Jody Meeks' game against Tennessee.
51 points, I think it was.
Amazing.
At Tennessee, too.
Yeah.
What was it? Crawford, that crossover that he did. Cliff Hawkins. I'm sorry. Cliff Hawkins crossover against UAB, I believe it was. I mean, that was so nice on that. And, of course, we didn't talk about this. Calipari, who has this autograph, or Calipari, Cauley-Stein, his dunk in Florida. I mean, that was such a highlight. I don't know if you remember or not, but, I mean, it looked like he was longer in his arm away when he did the dunk. But, yeah, some great eras. Comeback Cats, like you said, 20-point win era basically for the Cats back in the 90s was for me. Of course, I actually loved Toby Smith as a coach. I didn't hate his era either. Like some people bash him. I know as later on the recruiting, but we ain't getting into that whole stuff. The Cameron Mills, Jeff Shepard, lights out from 3 on that before it was a big thing as well. Who else we forgetting? Wayne Turner, Anthony Epps, Walter McCarty, the zero, and yeah.
You're forgetting some big names there.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, there's been such a plethora of players.
Cameron?
Yeah.
Cameron Mills?
Well, I said Cameron and Jeff Shepard.
Did you say Cameron? I didn't hear you say him.
Oh, wow. So, Krista says in the 90s, they watched UK Championship on TV at school when she was in 5th grade. I don't think it was the championship, hun. I'm just going to be honest. It was probably just March Madness because usually the first few games in the playoffs are in the AM time, and I remember watching them at just the championships usually on a Monday night at 9 o'clock, which makes no sense to me. But yeah, I do remember watching at Ross Point many times during the March Madness, the games, instead of having school. But that was what we are. We're Kentucky basketball. So we both have the same. Let me do this with you, Mark, real quick. Okay, so we both say the 90s. Rank the other ones, 2000, 2010, and 90s. Which one would you say? I guess 2020 as well. So we got 4 different eras here.
Oh, man, I don't know. I guess I got to go with the 2010s just because, that's when you get the class with was John Wall and his group.
He was 2009, but yeah, I'm with you.
But I'm just saying in that era, because then you had 2011, 2012 when we won the national championship again. That has to be up there. But I mean, let's be honest. Just because we weren't alive during that time, I think you got to look at the 50s as probably being one of the greatest. Like if you're looking on paper, is one of the greatest eras, just because of what Adolph Rupp and them did.
Absolutely. But it's hard for me to rank an era that I didn't grow up in or watch.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you're looking at it on paper, it's one thing, but when you see a player play, it's totally different.
Absolutely. I would say I would go with the 90s, 2010s, the 2020s, and then the early or the 2000s is the way I would rank it as well. Just for the fact that you get the Tyler Ulis, who's another one of my favorite because we had him for 3 years, I think it was, playing with Booker and that whole run, the 39-0, but then they lost in the playoffs with Karl Anthony Towns. And then, of course, like you said, the 2012 championship team. Those were some great times. Now, I do think the 2019 team, even though we had the COVID that interrupted, I think they had a great chance to make a run for the national title. But I'm not saying they would have won it because you can't say who or what on that.
Yeah, it kind of messed everything up with COVID during that time.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our next topic here. And I'm sorry, see here, let me get it to click here. Let's do our Calipari player draft.
Oh, my goodness.
And what we'll do is just go pick per pick. I'll let you have first pick. And the only thing that I could see that was a list that I'll try to share here with us is ranking the all-time players, and it was a graph here. Let's see here. Trying to get back over to my screen. There we go.
It's kind of hard just because Kentucky's had so many draft picks by Calipari.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I know I'm going to forget some, and I'm going to forget some UK players. It's part of it. I'm trying to look up a list here myself so I can see here.
So the way this chart has it's basically got it in tiers. The first tier is legends of about looks like 15 players, and all stars and impactful players. I mean, it's going to be hard to really say who has the best lineup or anything on this. I may end up drafting more of my favorite players and who I think would be the best players. I'm gonna get a notebook and try to write these down because I think this would be a good tweet to later to see what people thought who they think would win. Let's see here, but I'll let you have.
I had a list pulled up and I do not know what happened to it.
Oh, on your phone?
Yeah, well, I had it on the computer. You remember I was having computer issues, but I think I found the list again. I think we're good.
Okay.
I think if I'm going to go first pick, I got to go AD, man.
AD? Okay. That's obvious.
I got to go Anthony Davis.
Okay. For my first pick, I'm going to go Cousins just because of AD's there. I say it like he's not that good of a player, but that's who I'm going to go for my second pick. I'm going strategy sadly with you here. Like, okay, big, I got to have a big there. Like,
I'm trying to think here. Do we want to go guard now, or do you want to go another big?
Whoever you want to draft. But let's do 5. That way we've got a starting 5. How about that? Instead of like drafting a big team.
Okay. Are you keeping track of mine too? Because I don't have any paper.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. So I got AD. You got, who'd you pick? DeMarcus?
Cousins. Yeah.
Okay. I think I will go John Wall.
All right, I'm going to write him on down here. I'm going to go with, now I am, just so everybody knows, and you know too, I'm going with the college play, not so much the NBA play as well.
That's what I'm doing, going by how they were in college.
Right. I'm going to go with, I'm going to have a fun team. I'm not going to go with the best team, I don't think. I'm just going to go with who I think would be fun to draft. I'm going to go with, where do they even have them on here?
Are you going with Kyle Wilcher?
No, I am not. He is not getting drafted in my top 5. I apologize.
Oh.
Okay, I see him down there. All right. I'm going to go with Jamal Murray, the blue arrow.
Well, let's see. I've got Davis
AD and Wall.
You're going with a shooter, so I guess I need to go. Give me D-Book.
Dang it. That's who I was trying to find. They have him as impactful instead of all-star or legend. Like
the kid shot 40% from 3 while he was at UK, like 52.6% from the field or something like that. I mean, good shooter. I'll take him.
Absolutely. Let's see here. I'm going to go with 2 guards as far as my shooters here. I'm going to go ahead and take Monk.
I saw that coming.
I mean, what was it he had in the Las Vegas against North Carolina in like the casino? Was it 41 points when they scored 90-some points, I think?
Something like that.
And guys, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, if you're making comments right now, I cannot see them because I'm getting too old. I couldn't see my picture, so I blew up my screen here so I can see the players better.
Yeah, I can't see the picture myself, but I'm just trying to look off my list. Let's see.
I already got my 5. I know you will not draft them, but I'm totally happy with this.
Well, I tell you who I want to pick. I want to pick Patterson just because I love Patterson.
Absolutely.
I really like
3-year.
Patterson. And he was a good dude. Like, I got to talk to him several times. Got to meet him a couple times. He was just a nice guy. Met him.
Are you picking him?
And I can't. Am I going to try to beat your team? Is that what I'm trying to do?
I don't care. I mean, this is their favorite player.
Give me Patterson. I want Patterson.
I mean, the way he was with his family with UK, you have to like Patterson. Graduated 3 years ahead of the game, 1 year ahead. I mean, the guy was.
I gotta go with Patterson.
I'm with you on there. Okay, give me Bam for my 5/4. One of my favorite players in the NBA, just because he can guard 1 through 5. Miami Heat would not be Miami without him with that zone defense that he can guard the whole paint basically, and he can get out on the people shooting the threes. Bam is locking up everyone.
So I need more of a small forward type now.
I really do too, but I'm still drafting who I want.
See, I would love to just say Tyler Eulis, just because he can.
Dang it!
I mean, I would just because he can. Man, he was
I
like a
didn't think you.
general on the floor.
Absolutely.
Like, he's 5'9" and be able to do what that man could do.
That
I'm not
that
gonna
Louisville
go with
game,
him, though.
you can. It's fine. But
No,
that
I'm looking. I'm trying to think because I've already I would love to go Oscar Shibwe as well.
right. I mean,
But there's
not
just been
bad.
so many players. I mean, I don't need that many bigs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
And we didn't even take Carl Anthony Town as our bigs.
So I got, let's see, I got Davison at center. I got
Uh-huh.
Patterson at power forward. I've got my shooting guard in Booker. Got my point guard in John Wall. Golly, there's so many. Like Kevin Knox could probably run the small forward.
Good.
I'm looking here. Man, this is tough. I hate when I'm put on the spot like this. I never know who I want to get.
I mean, there are no wrong answers. I mean, you could really go with Miller, who had a great senior year.
Dude, I love Darius Miller. I really did.
Kentucky grown, that jump shot in the middle of the paint, that pull up that he had. I mean, it was phenomenal.
Well, I mean, I hate even leaving like Carl Anthony Towns off the list.
Right.
I got to meet him, super nice guy. And I love getting to watch him play. We actually went to the tournament that year. I went up to the Final Four and watched us get beat by Wisconsin when they did not call the shot clock violation like they should have.
Absolutely.
Oh, man, this is tough. I tell you what, I want Mr. Clutch. I want Harrison.
Harrison? Okay, so you're going small three. That's fine.
Well, here's what I'm thinking.
It's Aaron Harrison, right?
Was it Aaron or Andrew that hit the clutch ones? See, now you put me on the spot.
I don't know.
Ooh. In the tournament that year, he was Mr. Clutch.
I thought it was Aaron.
Hold on, I'll tell you.
You good. While you're looking that up, I'll go ahead and make my pick. I'm going straight defense on my unit with Bam locking down everyone. Playing the 4 on defense, more of the 5 on offense, with Cousins having a deep ball, sadly enough.
You're right. It was Aaron. It was Aaron.
It was Aaron? Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so for my wing, keeping the defense going that was locked down, had a wonderful college career and a one and done. Give me Michael Kidd-Gilchrist.
Oh, man, I forgot. See, I forgot about him.
Absolutely.
And another player I forget about, but I loved watching play, was Alex Poythress.
Poythress, absolutely.
I thought about him so much athleticism.
Do you remember that when he dunked the ball one time, his tooth got stuck in the net and ripped it out?
Yep.
Like, who jumps and has that happen that high?
You think of the players we've left off this list, man. Brandon Knight, De'Aaron Fox. Like, I would take either of those.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Tyler Eulis, I was wanting to take, but I've got Murray running point with Monk at the 2, and then I kind of needed more of a shoot or a small forward because I was trying to match up with you. But, I mean, we just randomly pick guys out of here, and both of those lineups are solid.
Well, I picked Harrison just for the clutch aspect.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's fine. The Gatorade shot.
I mean, you think about it, he had 3 of probably the biggest shots in tournament history.
Oh, absolutely. From the same spot, too.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Absolutely. So, just to recap real quick, the draft, no order here, but you got Patterson, AD, Aaron Harrison, Devin Booker, and John Wall as your 5 going up against mine. Bam, Cousins, Kidd-Gilchrist Jr. Or I'm not junior, I don't even know why I threw that in there. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, Murray, and Monk.
That'd be a fun game to watch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let me go ahead and quit sharing this.
See, I almost went 2 bigs right out of the gate. I almost went with AD and then Shibwe right back to back because I was how are you going to get a rebound?
I mean, you're right on that. There's no rebounding against those guys. Let's see here, check here. Speaking of Oscar, let's go ahead and move into our next topic here, and it is Mark. Who will lead with no O this year? Of course, Oscar had the chance where he could come back, stayed in the draft. Do what?
To me, I think it's going to be Reeves.
Reeves.
Him coming back, I think, is going to play a major impact on this team. And I think it's going to be Reeves. That's just who I really seeing the way he played in the Global Jam. He was just like very confident hitting shots that you didn't see him hit as much last year. Very confident with his shot, very confident with his passing. I really look for Antonio Reeves to step up and lead this team. Now, that's not to say I believe some of these young people are going to have major impacts, and they're going to be leaders as well. You know, I look at Reed Shepherd, Kentucky boy, and I've watched him play live. I got to call games that he played. And I want nothing but for him to just have an absolute amazing season. That's what I want from him. But he just seems to be a leader on the floor. He looks to pass the ball. And I think Wagner's going to be one that comes out.
Me a pen.
Do what?
My son wanted to bring me a pen.
Yeah. But I believe Wagner's going to have a major impact as well. What's up, Micah?
Mark said, what's up? I know. All right. I told him he couldn't say anything. Okay. He wanted me to bring me his basketball or his sports pen that I could use to write down. So he's been threatened a few times during our other podcast that he can't come in here and talk. So he was afraid to say anything. But so you think Reeves, which is the sophomore leader that we had last year, and you said Wagner, I think it was?
Yeah, I think Reeves and Wagner and Shepherd, I think, are going to be your main leaders on the floor.
Okay. I'm totally fine with that. Obviously, the easy answer is Reeves. But one guy that I'm kind of interested in is Trey Mitchell a little bit. I don't know. I'm just – at 6'9", 225, a forward. I want to see how he plays. I think he's a transfer, right? A transfer portal?
Yeah, we got him from West Virginia, yeah.
West Virginia. So, I mean, following the Oscars' footsteps here, let's see kind of how he does on that. Now,
well, and you kind of know about everything that happened with West Virginia and Huggins stepping down, and they were basically begging people not to leave. But Trey Mitchell, I did like what, now that you mentioned his name, he was one name that I didn't know a lot about him.
Right.
You know, we've heard a lot of hype on all these freshmen coming in, but I hadn't heard a lot on Trey Mitchell. But then when I found out he was coming, I got to watch him a little bit. He's got an inside-outside game. He can take it inside. He can come out and hit the shot. So that's something that, if you're a big, that's something that is hard to guard.
Absolutely. And it's effortlessly able to move on at the next level as far as the NBA when you have that inside-outside ability. So those are mine. Of course, Reed is going to be a one that we all like to watch here this coming up year. I don't know.
He just seems like he's going to be a floor general.
Yeah. I tell you, what is it? I can't remember his name. Dillingham, is it?
Yep. There's a Dillingham.
Okay. Conversation that I've seen through Twitter of people doing their interviews. He didn't get a lot of playing time, and people kind of went to him as far as like, hey, why didn't you get to play, expecting this, hitting that. And he was just like, it wasn't my night, it was someone else's night tonight. Maybe mine will be next week or next game. I'm like, for a teenager, because that's what's on our team is teenagers, to say something like that, I thought was very mature for his age. I'm like, that's something you don't really hear from these guys who basically come from stars on their team to come up to play in a competitive role with Kentucky and have to realize that they got to play another team ball where they're not the superstar standalone player, and they have to play together as, what am I trying to say? A well-oiled ship, I guess. So to hear that from him, and then even hearing some stuff that Reed has said, who, of course, Kentucky grown, Jeff Shepherd that we've mentioned many times, his son following his shoes, wearing the 15 again, seeing some of the pictures of them dunking exactly the same way is just making the old blood bubble a little bit. Yeah. And just to hear what he's saying on some of the things too. And he's not really worried about the stats as far as like points wise, but he's filling the stat sheets elsewhere. I think one game he had 4 steals. He had that one pick and dunk that was beautiful there that he had on a fast break, of course. And then I think he had a couple blocks in the game too. So like he's doing it defensive and hustle style. Now, what's up, Otis? As far as that, so weird to say. Rusty, thank you for joining into the show here. Go Cats as always. And, of course, we've got Johnny making a comment here.
Yeah, thank you, Johnny.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Oh, Johnny, he's a good dude.
All right. So we thank you guys for jumping in here, leaving us comments. But I'm just happy to see that there's unselfishness already before the season technically starts on this team. So very excited about everyone stepping up in a way. I think it's
And
going to
that's
be
go ahead. I'm sorry.
just going to be a group effort with that.
And I think that's one thing you're always concerned about when you're bringing in talent like Calipari brings in.
Mm-hmm.
You're all like, how are they going to gel? Like, is because I think one thing he makes you buy into in his system, it's not about you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we want to develop you individually, but as a team, it's about doing what's best for the team.
Right.
And a lot of people may disagree with that statement, but I see the passion Calipari has for young people. Like he wants to see these guys succeed. He wants to see them get into the NBA. And I think that's why I've always kind of like, now he's a businessman. Let's just be honest. He's a coach. He's a businessman. And he's going to tell you what you want to hear. And and it don't matter how good of a game they play. He's always going to tell you something that they didn't do right.
Absolutely.
That's what good coaches do. But, you know, other players, I'm just looking at this team and thinking, man, we didn't even have two of our two main bigs playing in Global Jam.
Yeah.
And I mean, so we don't even really know what this team's going to look like completed. And that's what I think is kind of neat about this team. I mean, we had other players we didn't even mention. Justin Edwards. Averaged 14.5 points during the Global Jam. I mean, you got you already said Trey Mitchell. He averaged 14.5. Reeves stepped up and was hitting 23. He hit 23 points per game. So, I mean, and I tell you, one of the players that I thought looked like they were so much improved from last year was Thoreau.
Oh, yeah.
There's just so many players on this team, man, that are going to be fun to watch.
I'm going to talk bad about Kentucky just a tad bit in a good way here, okay?
All right, I'm out. I'm just kidding.
Well, one reason why I kind of put the question here as far as who's going to lead without no O this year is because I felt like last year's team was so dominant as far as getting Oscar the ball. Like that was like if they had one page of offense, it had just an O on it to give it to Oscar. And like I feel like Reeves didn't flourish in the system because personally, I felt like some of the guards, Livingston even, was hesitant to make a move because they had to throw the ball to Oscar. Now, I don't think Oscar was saying, hey, don't do anything, give me the ball, or Calipari was doing it. I just felt like they knew that they had the defending player of the year. Like, all offense goes through him, but they got so focused on that everyone got lost in a fluid motion of playing style. And not having Oscar down there, I think it's going to make them feel a little bit better on what they can do. Of course, with Reeves, the other players basically wasn't there. Because I want to say it was the Georgia or South Carolina game I watched last year at a away game. Oscar got in foul trouble and we were down by like 8 or something. And Reeves, I want to believe it was, came up, hit 2 threes right back to back and did one little driver into the free throw line pull up. I'm like, okay, see, look, you can score without throwing it down low. Like, get into your own flow. You can get yours. You've done it all your life. So I'm hoping to see more of that. And, of course, every time Calipari starts a team, they do the whole wheel offense where it's the dribble drive. If you drive this way, the guy rotates behind you and you hand it off to him. He comes on around, and you just basically fill in until you get your offense. Because the first, I would say, month, Calipari, all he focuses on is defense and the understanding of who's switching to what and where, which is fine. Like, defense wins championships. But that's what I'm hoping to see more is they're already we're seeing it. I'm sorry. I'm kind of going back to the fishing story, but we're seeing the camaraderie that they already have, and I think it's going to go good for them this year. So that's where I'm saying I'm talking bad about last year and seeing the difference already in this year.
Well, and what you said is kind of true because I feel like we didn't really get to see Chris Livingston play the type of ball that he can.
Right.
I mean, even the same thing with Wallace. I mean, of course, we knew they were both great talent. They both got drafted in the first round. I mean, Calipari's had like a first-round draft pick in the last 16 drafts. And, I never felt like they showed enough there, but other people know they have enough talent. Mm-hmm. They have that talent. And it's almost like it just didn't come through in the system. And like you said, I feel like it was – and I didn't mind because I love watching Sheway play. I love the fact that he stood for God, and I loved him as a player. But I'm going to be honest, as a player, he got lost on defense quite often.
Absolutely,
and that was one area of his game he was going to have to work on in the NBA. But I was glad that he did get drafted. I'm glad that he's able to go play.
Yeah, and what's almost crazy to think of is that our players that gets drafted in the NBA are going through combine to get seen, basically. Like
Yeah.
that's really where they're getting their publicity. It's not so much their stats at Kentucky. It's because that everyone knows that no matter what, Kentucky is going to be playing for themselves, basically, or for a team, and we don't really get to see how well they play as individuals until it comes to the combine, basically, where they go and show their self standing there. Because like Livingston wasn't really a high pick, but since the I'm calling it the combine, like the NFL, the all those games there where the skills training, the assessment, then he kind of started picking up value as the skills went on. I don't know what I'm trying to say there. So it's kind of weird how these players come to Kentucky because Calipari does produce NBA players. If you can't name a team right now that doesn't have a Kentucky player on it, basically. And so they come to Kentucky because of that. They work together for the year that they have as far as trying to win it, but then they go on to be getting their $1 million, which you can't blame them on that.
Yeah, that's one thing I've never understood. People, I would love to be able to keep every player all 4 years just to
Of
see them
course.
play, but you got to do what's best for you and your family. That's, I mean, and a lot of people don't like the NIL deal. I love it now because I believe it allows some of those players that still need to work a little bit, they can still make some money to survive until they go to the NBA.
I agree because even like Oscar last year, he was able, like they were predicting that he'd be worth, I think, he had a chance to possibly hit the $2 million last year with the MI or the NILs. And that's why I feel like he was more easy about coming back because he wasn't going to get drafted last year and there was no guarantees of anything.
Yeah.
So he come back because of the NIL and hey, I can make some money to support my family and still get an education with this too. So,
And the whole transfer portal thing is kind of blown up as well, man. People play 1 year and then boom, they're gone to another area. And so I know a lot of people don't like that, but I think it's neat because you never know what's going to happen.
absolutely.
It's just like trades in the NBA or trades in anything. You never know when one player is going to leave to the next. And I know, like I said, I know a lot of people are not fans of NIL. A lot of people are not fans. I like it for the kids that they can make money because, I mean, they're the ones out there doing the work. People don't realize the amount of work these kids put in daily. Like, they just don't get it. Like, I've seen local athletes and just the amount of work they put in. There's no, like, I don't know how they do it. Like, you have to eat, sleep, and live basketball. That's what you have to do. And I tell you, you were talking about how a lot of these combines or how a lot of these players are looked at in the NBA. It's kind of like how high school athletes are being looked at by colleges now too. It's, used to have to come to their high school to watch their games, but now it's all on the AAU circuit. A lot of these kids are getting recognized on that AAU circuit. And like, I think of Trent Noah from Harlan County High School, who just recently, he's been playing on the AAU circuit. He's playing on the same team Reed Shepherd plays with. He was a year below Reed, but stepped up and played with Reed last year on that AAU team. But he just in the last little bit, it's almost like after every tournament, he got more and more offers.
Oh, yeah.
And, he just got an offer to South Carolina, and he's been offered to Stanford and several other colleges, man. I would love nothing more to see him there in UK Blue as well.
Oh, absolutely. Harlan grown, played for UK.
Yeah.
I like to get on 24 or 247, 24/7 Sports, whatever you want to call it. It's nothing but recruits. You can see Kentucky's football, basketball. Of course, it's the whole recruiting era on that. So what I like about it is you can actually get on there. And I was looking on there yesterday, actually, and Trent's ranked 88 as far as his skill level. And one player that we're looking at right now is 91. I started thinking, well, why ain't Trent getting looked at here? And then today he get an offer from South Carolina. I'm like, okay, so we are getting some love down in this area.
And I tell you what, he actually there's other colleges that have been interested too, and I think they're just waiting to see how the season progresses. And now that the AAU season's over, it's going to be more about watching. And it's a lot easier. I think about these scouts nowadays. It's so much easier to watch these kids play than it was probably back in the the 80s and 90s, because now they can, like, most games are streamed. Like, you can just pull it up and watch their game.
Well, and you can do your own highlight reel too. Like, I've heard people talk about from the 90s and early 2000s before all this social media. And Justin, we'll get you to call me. Hang on one second. was talking about like you had to really grind as far as trying to get yourself promoted. Your mom and dad had to buy into really taking you everywhere, spend all that money. He said, but I can't remember who the athlete was, but it was an NBA player, and he said, now you're just one posterized dunk on somebody in a high school game away from getting seen by everybody and getting recruited. And he said it's just the whole recruiting levels changed on that. Huddle, I think of when it comes to, I want to say it's more of football and how they do just highlights and everything with that. So, I mean, everyone has a highlight reel now. So, but it's good though, because I think back to when I was in high school, there were athletes that played where I played at Cumberland that if they would lived in a different area, probably would have went on to a bigger college and played. I think, I'm going to name drop here, but Matt Haynes was a wonderful player in baseball, and actually a scout told, and it was the word on the street, that if he played in a bigger college or a bigger city, that he wouldn't have been recruited by East Tennessee State. It would have been more bigger D1 schools. And it's just, we're stuck in the mountains back then. And that's just kind of all that it would be. But now we have the social medias, the platforms that you can, that I don't even know the guy. You may know him, but I've seen him on TikTok quite a bit that has Trent on there, like a highlight that he does. So he had quite a bit of reads. When I went and watched Heartland City.
You're talking about Caleb. Caleb shot that?
I don't know. Maybe.
He does like the highlight reels with Trent, Maddox and all of them. Yeah.
Like, is he just locally? Like,
I think he just kind of hangs out with them and does that for him.
Because, he's had Reed highlights on there. He had some other people everywhere else. I'm like, this dude is a walking billboard for these guys to get recruited right now. Like, I don't know if he's just Harlan grown doing this, or if he's like somewhere from like Lexington.
Harlan. I can't remember where he's from. I've talked to him several times, but he's a good dude. And I like what he's doing. And like you said, it's getting people's names out there. That's what you got to do.
And he does a great job too, whoever he is. Might actually try to reach out to him, see if he wants to come on the show sometime and talk about it. But going to Justin's comment, thanks again for leaving us a comment here on Facebook. He said, don't know if we mentioned it yet, but do we think Reed will get any playing time?
You want me to start this?
Go right ahead.
You know what? There were a lot of people bashing, saying, Reed's just going because I'm telling you, this kid can ball. I've seen it too many times, and I think we saw it at Global Jam. If he doesn't see playing time, something's wrong. Kid averaged 5.75 assists per game in Global Jam, 8.5 points per game. So, I mean, if you take he averaged more assists than anybody on the floor, and I feel like he helped space the floor so well, and he can create shots for himself. I think he's going to see some playing time. Now, I believe it'll be in more of a platoon system like him and, different guards coming in and out. But I think he's going to see time. And I think he's going to see some good time.
Do you? Because I don't want to be the bad person on that. I do think he's getting time. Don't get me wrong. My tone kind of freaked my own self out there. But like even you mentioned with the Global League or the games that we've seen, we didn't even have two of our big players playing. So those players are going to get some of those minutes that Reed got, I feel like. So I do think he's going to get playing time, and I do think he's going to maximize every minute that he has in there. But it's going to be hard to play everyone a lot of minutes on this. I don't think it's going to be a blue platoon and white platoon at the end of this. Reed, the thing that worries me most on Reed is his man-to-man defense, and I'm not saying it's bad, but he did lack a little bit of on-ball defense. But his help defense, his team rotation defense looked good. Now, he's young. He's a freshman. So, I mean, he's got that time to work on it. What I'm really excited is Reed's future at Kentucky. Like, his first game ever, like you said, was doing this. He just has the smarts. I mean, Jeff Shepard, his dad, who also knows what went on with Kentucky, is there feeding, hey, this is what you can expect at the Kentucky level. This is what's going to go on. So I think he's going to chisel out minutes just because of his mentality of what he's going to do for a team. Chris jumping in here, Reed with the highest IQ player on the court, not the best shooter, not the best scorer, played good defense at Global Jam, but he also got beat off the ball dribbling several times. So Chris kind of saying exactly what I'm saying there on that.
But at least he knows now, like he knows that's something he's going to have to work on.
Right.
I heard people talking about his dad. Like they were saying, he's starting out looking a little better than you did starting out. His dad said he's still got 2 national championships to go.
Hey, there we go. So you always got them rings. Just ask Michael Jordan. It always beats every conversation. But no, as I agree 100% with what Chris was saying. It's kind of what I was going with. His IQ, he's going to be a coach on the court, it seems like.
He has amazing court vision.
Mm-hmm. So he's going to be a Rondo out there, as making the right passes, creating shots for other people, playing the help defense, picking somebody's pocket when they set the pick and roll and double team off of that. Somebody turns their back, he's going to leave his guy on the wing to go over there and get a quick steal a few times. I say he's going to get 2 steals a game. He just seems that smart on shooting the passing lanes and everything. So, yes, I think he's going to chisel out minutes, but it's going to be hard to get a lot of minutes with this team, in my opinion.
He averaged almost 2 steals a game in global. He had 1.75 steals per game.
Look at you being my stat guy here, just dropping them out.
There's a couple of things, like I said, play-by-play and stats, I can find you. But
All right. So with that, our last topic for tonight, which is good. We're at 50 minutes. I don't want to be too long on this where it gets overpowering. Anyways, my butt hurts after a while. Mark, who's going to be your favorite player to watch this year? I'm going to switch your cameras up so I can see your face better.
Oh, my goodness. Man, I don't know because I've not got to see anything about the bigs yet.
Right.
I'm a big man. I've always played the post, and I like the big man.
You position. Don't play the post.
Okay, I like shooting the threes too, but
you should play the post, but you like to shoot the threes.
But anyway, I like the big man position. I really want to see them. I'm interested to watch those guys play. I want to see how much, just how much more they can bring to this team. But I think one of my favorite players to watch is probably going to be Wagner, man.
Wagner.
There's something about him. I'm just excited. His dad even told him how hard it was going to be, coming to play for Cal because his dad played for Cal.
Right.
And but a lot of these players, they like accepting the challenge. Now, my other favorite player is probably going to be Reed. I want to watch Reed. This is a kid that I watched play against Harlan County, and I watched him. People didn't get to see the kid play high school ball probably as much as I did. Just seeing him, the way he could make other players on his team better.
Mm-hmm.
Just seeing him carry that out on the floor here at Kentucky. And I'm interested in watching Mitchell as well. It's hard for me to pick one player, man. There's so many of these players I was
going to say, that's like the third you've mentioned there, but I mean.
Well, Reeves is a no-doubter.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with Logan Justice right here. He just said that Dillingham's going to be real fun to watch. I think he is as well. We didn't get to see as much of him, like you said, in Global Jam. He just wasn't doing as well, but I think he is a highlight reel kind of guy. And dude, I feel like this whole team, it gives me hope. And I hate saying it. It's one of those things I'm not going to be like, hey, we're going to win a national championship. I'm not one of those fans, but I like watching a team that spreads the floor and shoots the ball. They're unselfish. They don't care who comes up with the points. That's what I like to watch. And yes, Chris is right. I want to watch the whole team.
Yeah.
It's hard to pick one player, man.
I mean, thank you, Chris, for calling me out on that. Like, I sat here thinking, okay, that's the third you've mentioned. I mean, you're just going to say all the starting 5 here. I want to watch them all. They're all my favorites. But I totally understand. Like, if I were to answer on this, number 1, of course, is going to be Reed, just because Jeff Shepard, watching him play, and then now his son's going to be there playing as well. Played at North Laurel for the past 3-4 years, I guess. And now he's wearing the Kentucky jersey, switched it over to 15 like Jeff Shepard, who I watched growing up and fell in love with that era of basketball. So he's number 1, but that's the given answer for if you live in Kentucky, that's the number 1 you want to watch. But my other one that I'm going to say, I'm going to just do
so you names. Want to watch the whole – no,
I'm just doing 2 names, is Justin Edwards. I really want to see what he's going to be bringing this year. I think he's going to be fun to watch. I'm going to throw another name out here just for you since you did 3. Who I'm excited about watching this year.
Team, dude. Like, it's hard to pick one because
no. This one's going to be different. I'm so thrilled because I don't want to be the guy who keeps saying the word excited over and over and be like Tim Tebow, but I'm thrilled to watch Tyler Eulis this year.
Be a coach.
Like, I loved him as a player and what all that he did. As far as the game against Louisville, getting cut over the eye, getting it taped up, getting back out there, and still just doing everything. I don't know even how to say that name correctly.
Enzo, Michael.
Absolutely. It's going to be a fun year.
He's one of the bigs. He's one of the bigs.
Yes. They had surgery, right? Going to be out for a couple months.
Yeah, he's out for a little bit.
But Eulis has already been showing some mentorship with Reed and I think Justin Edwards as well. So I want to see how his role actually takes place in this team as well. So it's not even basketball season yet. I'm thrilled to be talking basketball. Like we got football that we can talk about as well on this. So should be a fun year. So you got some more comments coming in here. Go ahead and bring them in if you want.
It's going to be exciting. I agree with Chris. He's going to be a heck of a shot blocker. I mean, you look at Willie Cauley-Stein, Anthony Davis is going to be that kind of shot blocking capability, going to be a rim protector.
Oh, good. Because that'll help Reed with minutes too. Like, you can overplay some of those. And if you get burnt, you have someone to protect you down there. So that's going to help him quite a bit too.
Then we got Johnny agrees with me. Got to watch the whole team. Don't have a favorite player either, man. Well, I've always struggled with picking favorite players, man. I just have. When I support a team, I support the whole team. Down to the water boy, man. I don't care. I'll root for you.
I mean, I'll root for you, but I've definitely got favorites. I got Cauley-Stein.
How interesting is it now with Brad Calipari going to coach Vanderbilt?
Yes.
Stackhouse.
Yes, I've reached out to him. He's not responded back. So, maybe we can get him on the show. But
are you trying to name drop?
I am. No, listen, I have no shame when it comes to texting, messaging someone to try to get some guests on the show. I don't care at all. But I guess I'll go ahead and say this. Since I mentioned guests, guys, as we're finishing up this episode already, next week, I'm going to touch base with him again. We do have a name to drop for our very first special guest. It's going to be on here next week as long as everything goes through, is who we've said a few times in this show. Jeff Shepard is going to be on here with us next week, Tuesday at 8 p.m. Of course, we're going to talk with him about some of his playing times back in the 90s, how that's helped him help Reed as he's grown up as well and stay in their Kentucky area and everything like that. So I am thrilled to have him, one of my icons of growing up playing basketball for the blue and white as well. So should be great to have him on there. Mark, I think it's went well.
I mean, it's my first time, dude. I've never done stuff like this. We've sat around and talked about UK basketball probably this long before.
Absolutely. See, I've told you this. Like, all we got to do is put a camera in front of our face and still talk. Like, this is what we do. Like, this is constantly. So, but before we sign off here and call it a quit, where can people find you on social media in case they want to follow you and see some of the stuff that you may be tweeting about or just anything like that? Do you want to share any of that?
I'd have to get that together. I've not tweeted in a minute.
Okay. Mark's Twitter is mlawson15.
You got it. Okay. Is it at mlawson15? That's what I thought it was.
Yes. Or is it M15?
mlawson15.
Yes, I've tweeted at you nonstop about our show, but we're going to have to pick that up for you.
Yeah,
this is all new to you. It's fine.
I'm getting old, man. I got notifications turned on.
It happens. Of course, as far as me, MD Lawson00 is pretty much everything for me. It's Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, the whole 9 yards on that. And of course, I do have my other show on Sundays night, MNC Hoops, where it's everything NBA related. But thank you guys so much. Do what?
I said I'm not on that one.
No.
I only follow UK players.
Absolutely. Of course, I mean, that's basically what I do. That's why I like Phoenix Suns with Devin Booker and Miami Heat. Pat Riley, Bam, Hero.
Sacramento Kings are turning into the UK Kings.
Absolutely. They just who was it they just signed in a 2-way contract? A 2-year deal it was. Nerlens, of course, they've got Trey Lyles, they've got Monk and Fox. I mean, it's the Kentucky Kings down there. So absolutely. But with that being said, guys, I think that calls our first show in for a wraps, closing it out just before the hour. And of course, we will try to get us a podcast as well up on this soon so we can upload this and have it available as soon as possible. Just haven't done that yet. Sorry, I've done some other stuff to get everything going. But with that being said, guys, thank you all so much for joining. Until next Cats Chat, you all have a good one.
Appreciate you.